Why do people read the Niagara Falls Reporter? Well, according to publisher Frank Parlato, it's because they're not afraid to publish the truth.
Hi out there, this is Tony Farina inviting you to read the Niagara Falls Reporter online or in print every week. We're not afraid to tell the truth. We don't pull punches. We give you the best we can about what's going on in this area, whether it be politics, government, budgets, Seneca gaming issues. Whatever we've got, you're going to have. So check us out, Niagara Falls Reporter.
And the Reporter is factual, fun, and it's free. Pick your copy up every week at Tops, DiCamello's, or Tim Hortons, or read it online at NiagaraFallsReporter.com. You know, trees are nice, but they need to be taken care of. And now's the right time of year to trim up, cut down, or clear up the trees on your yard that concern you. Do it before the snow flies. The best way is to call Backwoods Maple Syrup and Tree Cutting Service at 628-7481. Whether you need a whole tree taken down with the stump removed, or you have some questionable branches that need to be addressed, Backwood Tree Service is the most reasonable way and professional way to get the job done. They're fully insured and ready to serve you. 628-7481. And while you got them on the phone, ask about the real maple syrup. Season's coming up, and you won't want to miss out. Backwood Tree Service and Maple Syrup Company, 628-7481.
The opinions expressed on NiagaraBroadcastNetwork.com are those of the host and the guest, not of management or the sponsors.
The Sal and Rose Show.
Lovers know a special place, Niagara Falls. Romance shows on every face in Niagara Falls. Rushing waters tumbling down on jagged rocks below.
Welcome to another program. I'm going to veer away from the politics today and some of the crazy stuff we do, because we're going to be a little bit serious. It's a subject that you're going to want to listen to, especially if you have kids or someone in your house that may need some help, and we'll explain. With me tonight is Marla Gibbons-Doxey from the Niagara County Mental Health Office.
Correct.
Tell me a little bit about what you do.
What we do at Niagara County Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, we do a lot of things. We're the local governmental unit. We oversee the services for mental health, substance use, and developmental disabilities. We have some direct services, including our Niagara County Crisis Services. We have a lot of home and community-based programs that work with individuals in the community. We also have our integrated care clinics that works with adults over the age of 18 and older, where we provide clinical services, so therapy, medication management, psychiatry services.
The reason I really wanted to get you here today was there's a lot of things going on that are fresh in people's minds, and they really don't know what to do.
Sure.
One of them is when you come across someone who may be suicidal. Another thing, now we're running into a lot of these people who are getting guns and going, I don't even know how to explain what they do.
Sure.
You may be able to better tell than I do, but they go into areas and they start shooting. So I'm assuming, and they've said, you know, there's signs along the way. And a lot of times you look back and you say, hey, you put this on Facebook, or she did this, or she said this, or she said that. Let's first talk about the shooter incidents. These people that, I'm going to say go off the deep end is probably the wrong word to say, but when do you start taking a hard look at somebody and saying, maybe just maybe I should call somebody.
Sure. So I did a little research before coming on today because I knew you were going to ask me some of those questions, and taking a look at, there was a recent podcast with PsychCentral.com, and it was Dr. John Grohol, and was talking about mass shootings and mental illness. And so they had taken a report from the National Council from August of 2019, and it's a large organization that focuses on behavioral health research. And there was also a U.S. Secret Service report that they took a look at to see what are some of the characteristics of perpetrators of, these mass shootings and these violence. So there were several things that they came up in terms of those characteristics.
So when you say characteristics, are these things like a parent or a spouse or somebody should look for?
Sure, they're indicators to say, what do individuals that do this typically share? What do you look for? What can it look like? So I'll name a couple of those things
Sure.
that they had talked about. So they said the perpetrators of violence, they cut across, demographics, socioeconomic class, cultural factors, many of those different things.
So that really doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It
Yeah.
cuts across all of those. But they did find that most often it is males. It doesn't exclude females. We've had, throughout history, there have been
Do they
female-
have any theory on why males?
Well, if you think about it, there's some parts that I think are men, and there are parts that are women. And just, if you look at men, sometimes it's not culturally or socially acceptable for them to express feelings. Or they have a tendency, particularly the shooters that they look at, that go after guns. They look at that kind of destruction. But other than that, I'm not sure whether to say what the two differences are with that. They look at individuals, they're most often males. They're most often individuals that express hopelessness. They may be harboring some grievances against individuals. They feel like they've been done wrong. So it could be anything from work to school to finances or those interpersonal relationships. They also feel victimized by individuals.
But you run into people, Marla, that
Sure.
that they have problems in their life. They break up with their girlfriend, and they
Sure.
lose their job, and they handle it.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you know when a person maybe isn't handling it?
Well, it's taking all these things into consideration. You're looking for changes. You're looking for individuals that may become more isolated. They may be really focused on, ideas or people, or, they're having a difficulty moving away from those kind of things, kind of ruminating on those. They may have become very indifferent to life, maybe not having a care for, life in general, whether they live or they die or other people, what happens with that. There can be a lot of anger behind that. Also, when they start making some of those direct threats, sometimes people dismiss that, like, oh, they're just mad. Someone
right.
says, well, I'm going to kill them, or those kind of things.
Yeah.
Those are statements that what the research was also finding, that about 93% of people that have been involved in the mass shootings have made some kind of threat or direct communication. That they were going to do so, whether it be social media or talking to coworkers or family.
So I understand that,
Mm-hmm.
except where do you say, I'm going to call somebody? When does it come to the point, I mean, if a neighbor is making a lot of noise and
Sure.
has his music playing loud and the guy goes, I kill that guy, he's driving me nuts.
Sure.
Should you call the police? Should you call mental health? Where do you draw the line? Where do you start getting concerned enough to make a call?
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get into that. And who do you call?
Sure. So, I mean, you're looking for different signs and changes in individuals. You may have someone, that typically they're fine, they're happy, they're go-lucky, and maybe they're having a bad day and they're getting really frustrated. What is their temperament and their personality usually like? Sometimes you may not know that of an individual, and if you're kind of uncertain or someone seems like they're agitated or irritable, that may be when you pick up the phone and you just call. Our Niagara County Crisis Services, we receive all kinds of calls from individuals. Sometimes they're not sure where to go, or they're not sure, like the same kind of questions you're asking. And we really gather a lot of different background information. What's the circumstance? What do you know about the individual? And get a sense of kind of where to go from there.
So would you come out, suppose I called you and said, my wife is acting a little strange and I think she needs some help.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if somebody came and knocked on the door and said, I'm from mental health, I got a call saying I needed, I mean, how do you handle something like that?
Sure. So we would gather a lot more information than that. We would want to know, so what is her typical behavior? Has there been any recent stressors in their life? Is there a change in job, in finances? Is there any kind of personality changes? Have you noticed any, signs of any kind of hopelessness or, any changes in medication? Sometimes that makes a difference for individuals. It may not be psychotropic medications, but maybe they started, Chantix for smoking, different things like that. Anything that is changing your body can change your behaviors and your personalities.
So would you say, come over and talk to her? I mean, I'm assuming if I were to do that, and my wife would go, what did you went and called somebody to come and tell you, what do you, I would
Sure.
assume they would take that the wrong way.
Sure.
Not that you're trying to help me, but, well, what are you trying to do? Get me, taken away? I just...
Right, so we like to do the least restrictive intervention as possible. So if you're concerned, we would ask, have you talked to your wife about that situation? Some people are comfortable, some people are not. We'll get individuals that say I can't let them know that I even called you,
Right.
But that I am concerned.
So how would you handle how would you go into a situation like that?
So we can ask, can we have the phone number to try to call her? If we call, we can, just say that we've received a concerning call.
You would call up, hey, I'm from mental health, and somebody told me you weren't acting right. I want to, you would do that.
We could, depending on what the caller is saying and what their concerns are. There are some people that won't give them the phone or the phone number, and they'll just say, I need you to come. And then it just really kind of takes, our discretion of, do we have enough information? Because when we go out to the house, we have to look at it like we're impeding upon somebody's rights, and that's the last thing that we want to do. So we have to have enough concern that, it's appropriate to do that.
I have been acting as a police officer. I have been on calls with mental health, and I gotta say, the people are excellent. Over the years, I've been doing this for years, and
Sure.
over the years, the people are excellent. They're very kind. They're very considerate. They seem to try to understand the best they can. But the people, in most cases, are agitated that someone would call mental health and say something about them.
Absolutely. Yes. So I have to say we have a great group of individuals that have worked with us throughout the years. I think it really takes, with a lot of different jobs, a lot of special people to do this job. It's not easy. You have to have a long thread of patience, not take a lot of things personally, but also put yourself in their circumstance. Someone were to come to your door and knock and start asking you about your personal information and you don't know them, you yourself are probably going to get on, defensiveness, just being in a regular state of mind.
Well, let me ask you this. If you come to a house and you talk to somebody who somebody says they're acting a little strange,
Sure.
I need you to talk to them. So you come over and you decide they are acting a little strange. What do you do with them?
So-
what are their choices?
Sure. So we would want to talk with them, really try to engage them. And sometimes it can be really different. Some people are saying, I'm absolutely not talking to you.
Yeah.
So that's just using your skills to try to engage them in different ways, to let them know that we're just there to help. We're not there. A lot of people think, we're under mental health arrest. Someone's just coming to take me away. And I always approach the situation where I'm really here just trying to help the situation and keep you home. If there's others that are concerned about you, we want to be able to keep you here with the support that you may need. And that tends to get individuals to be able to talk when you're really coming from that place of honesty, and to let them know what's really going on. If they don't meet criteria. So for our crisis services, we work under Mental Hygiene Law 9.45, which is very specific in, what we're allowed to do and when we're allowed to take someone involuntarily to the hospital for further psychiatric evaluation. So, when they don't meet that criteria, we're offering them resources, referrals, supports. We can do follow-up visits, follow-up phone calls, to maybe the next day after they've had time to think about it.
I had an occasion to go on a call recently where somebody had called the police. They said a fellow had threatened suicide and he had cut his wrists.
Okay.
I go to the scene and the guy says, I don't know what they're talking about. I'm perfectly fine. But his wrists are cut. Both wrists were cut. I said, what happened to you? I was taking the speakers down from my sound system and it fell and it cut my wrists. And the girl said, that's not what happened. he had a knife and he slit his wrist and he said the knife's right there. And I was able to talk to the party. I said, look, you got to take the heat off me. I says, you got to go talk to somebody at the hospital.
Sure.
If they say you're okay, that's fine with me. But you know, you got to. So he decided he would go voluntarily and talk to somebody.
Sure.
Where do you draw that line? Guy tells you that speakers fell. I didn't do nothing. What do you make that decision?
It's one of those things, it's not one thing that helps us make that decision. It's really taking all the factors in, especially who's calling makes a difference according to the law. So if it is an adult child that's calling on the parent, if it's a spouse, if it's a adult sibling, you know, if it's your therapist that you're seeing or your doctor, you know, there are different individuals under there that if they give us enough information, they become the valid petitioner, is what we call them. And so if that was the situation and that was the wife, per se, that was saying that happened, we would certainly want to, most likely taking everything into consideration, err on the side of caution to make sure that they're at least checked out and that they're okay.
At that point, he says he's not suicidal. He did not hurt himself, but you see cuts. The wife said no, he took a knife, he did this. At that point, do you force him to go to the hospital if he refuses?
Again, there's so many factors that go into that. But if that's the scenario and we believe that there is risk to himself, that yes, we can make them involuntarily go to the hospital. And that's why we have police there, you know, just for our safety, their safety. You know, and more times than not, people, you know, willingly go at that point.
Yeah, most of the time you could talk them into it, but sometimes they're just not going to
Sure,
go.
yes.
They're not going to do it, and you know, there are times when they're forced. Is there, people asked me this the other day, and you know, I really can't answer this question.
Okay.
Years ago, they called them insane asylums, where they put somebody in these. Do they have those facilities anymore?
We do have, we don't call them insane asylums. We come
I know
a
that.
very long way to treating people humanely, you know, understanding
I
the
understand.
biology
No, I
of the
know.
brain, you know, absolutely.
No, I understand that. I'm just.
But we do have inpatient psychiatric facilities that are locked. There are different kinds. So there's acute facilities, you know, like Niagara Falls Memorial here locally, which is more of a short-term, you know,
Yeah,
stabilization.
I was going to say, they wouldn't take you there for a long time, right?
No, it's for stabilization, and how long they keep you is depending upon, you know, what they observe and what your needs are. There's also Buffalo Psychiatric Center. We don't really see individuals that are hospitalized long-term, like years or the rest of their life, that we've seen years and years ago. It's really more looking at, we know how to treat individuals better. You know, there are different medications that help to stabilize, individuals. So we really look at, you know, rehabilitation, you know, that's possible. And that's where that whole word recovery comes, that really looking at, even though someone may have a mental illness, that there is the ability to recover, you know, and lead a productive life.
So we're talking about changes in people and different things you notice. Suicidal people, do they always say, you know, I don't care about living anymore? Are there other things that you should watch for?
Take a look at,
Yeah.
sure. So it makes it easy to understand where somebody is when they say, you know, I feel like dying, or I don't want to be here anymore, kind of a things. But oftentimes it may not be that direct. We always tell individuals to take a look at the facts. So we take a look at that, it all stands for something, so an acronym FACTS. So the facts are the feelings. Is someone expressing a sense of hopelessness, you know, or helplessness, like nothing's going to get better? We also look at their actions. So is someone, you know, more isolating? We also see individuals that may become increasingly risk-taking and engaging in dangerous behaviors. We also look at C for changes. So those changes are, you know, a diversion from their typical personality or, you know, how they present themselves. We may see that their hygiene has declined. We may see that they're more irritable, snappy, withdrawn, you know, from others. So a real change from someone.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll see if someone, you know, is sad or depressed a lot, all of a sudden we call it a flight to wellness. Then all of a sudden they're great, they're doing well, everything's gotten better. And that can be very concerning. And some people think like, oh, great, you know, they're finally coming along. Sometimes individuals have made a decision to die by suicide, and it's like a relief for them. And so they feel like, I don't have to deal with this much longer, I'm gonna be okay. So that we have to look out for those kind of things. The T is for the threats, what you just said, someone saying, I want to die.
Sure.
I want to kill myself. I'm not going to be here much longer anyways, those kind of things. And then also looking at the situations when we see different life stressors. So it could be a stressor in relationship. It can be loss of marriage, loss of finances, loss of home, loss of jobs, any of those things. And just any kind of other.
So all these things you're mentioning, how do you get people over this? I mean, other than medication, I mean, when somebody is distressed and you
Sure.
tell them, this is going to be okay, or wait till tomorrow, you look at it different, at that time, they'll look at you like you're crazy.
Correct. You got to meet them where they're at, quite honestly.
Yeah.
A lot of individuals you may not understand exactly how a person is feeling, but just meeting them where they are. Sometimes an individual just wants someone to say, I'm here to listen to you, and maybe validate that, yeah, that's a pretty tough situation that you've been through. Let's see what our options are. An individual that's suicidal doesn't have the ability oftentimes to be able to think more abstractly or to think about the future. So being there. Research has also shown that about 95% of individuals, when they actually get to talk to someone to say that I'm feeling like I want to die, decreases their suicidal thoughts. So it's that connection with another individual to say that, we can do this, and it may not get better tomorrow, and it may not get better, a week from now, but we're here and we're going to work through it, and we have a plan.
I think at the time when people get in this particular situation where they feel it's hopeless or they don't care anymore, or their girlfriend or spouse or somebody left them, and they never think it's going to get better, or you tell them, let's talk about this. No, it doesn't matter. They kind of made up their mind, or so it seems at that time. So we call, if they do call, where do they call? The hotline?
They can call, Niagara County Crisis Services at the 285-3515 number.
24 hours a day.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Someone is always there to answer the call. They can call, and again, we get calls for, I'm not sure where to get food tonight. We answer those calls, to the individuals, that are in extreme distress and really needing that additional intervention.
It's not really funny, but I did take a 911 call one time, answered the phone, 911, and the guy said, I need to talk to somebody. I'm going to kill myself. And I said, well, we got someone to talk to you. I switched you over to hotline. This was years ago, so I switched them over to hotline, and I'm on the line, and the girl says, hotline. He says, yeah, I need to talk to somebody. I'm not fit. She goes, I got another call. I'll be ready to put you on hold. And the guy goes, see what I mean?
Aww.
So it was like, but that is a place to call, right?
It is, absolutely.
And you have trained people 24 hours a day?
We have trained people, yes. The individuals that we have there have, years of experience, and they love this job. They love connecting with those individuals, to really just work them through whatever it is that's going on.
It was years ago, but it was like, no, I can't. We're coming right back. We're talking mental health. If you have a question, you'd like to talk to Marla, you can call us at 333-3020. Don't have to give your name. Maybe there's a scenario you'd like to run by her, or you have a question about somebody you know, or 333-3020. Dial it carefully, and we'll be right with you. Let's get real for a moment. When you're looking for a home appliance repairman, what do you look for? Well, in most cases, you look for the job honestly and do it correctly the first time. Then you look for someone who's reasonable, someone who's going to give you a fair price for the work he does. Well, I got one that's even better than that. He'll give you the best price you're going to ever hear. His name is Chris Moore, and his service call is $35. Got a problem with the stove, refrigerator, freezer, washer, dryer, hey, you name it. If it's a home appliance, Chris can fix it, and he does it for a $35 service call, plus the cost of the parts and installation. Now, I don't know of any other repairman who's had as much experience, over 30 years, as Chris Moore, who will come to your home for a $35 service call. Once you have Chris at your house, you're going to want him back again and again and again, and you're going to recommend him to all your friends and relatives. So you want to have that phone number handy. So what do? Well, let's update. Let's not put it on a piece of paper and stick it somewhere where it's going to get lost or fall off, dry up, and disappear. Put it in your cell phone where you know you can find it when you need it. Because you know someday you will need Chris Moore's number. It's 523-5911. Chris Moore's Appliance Repair. $35 service call plus the cost of the parts and installation. 523-5911. Put that in your cell phone right now. At the Wellness Park Pharmacy at 86th and Buffalo Avenue and the Community Medical Pharmacy on Michigan Avenue just off Main Street, you're not just another customer, and your needs are important. To them, you're a somebody.
Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came.
Now under new ownership, both pharmacies will see to it that you get the personal service that you deserve. Want to give them a try? Then call right now, 260-1918, and tell them you want to switch your prescriptions over to the Wellness Park Pharmacy or Community Pharmacy in Niagara Falls. They'll make all the phone calls to make it happen. And both pharmacies offer free home prescription delivery. And when you have them on the phone, be sure to ask about their wide selection of CBD products. Available in creams, oils, gummies, and much, much more. Get all the details today by calling 260-1918. The Wellness Park Pharmacy at 86th and Buffalo Avenue and the Community Medical Pharmacy on Michigan Avenue just off Main. Call 260-1918.
Where everybody knows your name. Everybody knows your name. And they're always glad you came. Where everybody...
We're talking with Marla from Niagara County Mental Health, and we're talking about problems you may know somebody might have, or maybe you think they might have. And if you have a question for her, it's 333-3020. I understand if you don't want to call, you don't have to give your name. We understand, but let's talk a little bit about kids and drugs, Marla. What is going on with? There is such a problem with people overdosing.
Correct.
That I don't know why they don't understand that using drugs and crack cocaine and that type of thing is dangerous.
Sure. So it's a huge problem. We know that a lot of the overdoses and fatalities that we've seen is because of fentanyl being introduced into the drug supply. So that's accounting for many of the deaths that we're seeing. I think I did tell you that I am part of the Niagara County Opiate Task Force. I'm one of the co-chairs for our Public Awareness and Involvement Subcommittee with Owen Steed. Legislator Rebecca Whittish is the chairwoman of the entire task force. And we've been really, focusing our efforts on engaging the youth these days. It's important to really equip them with the knowledge of what's going on and to help them make choices when it's possible at the very beginning. We often hear from them that they don't want to hear from, I'll just say individuals of my age or older. They're really looking to talk to their peers. They feel that their peers have a lot more credibility in what's going on. They may not take us seriously, to say, I think way back, drugs are just bad, just don't do them. But there's lots of other factors that go into, why they use. If they're trying to, numb some stressors or difficult circumstances they're going through, maybe, it's normal within their family that, they use some substances. There's lots of different factors that go into the reasons why they may pick up a substance and use.
And I get it, but I don't get it.
Sure.
You're taking something that may kill you. I was at on a call where it was a crack cocaine party, I guess, and a person had overdosed, and the medics came and gave him the Narcan, which he was lucky enough to escape at the time. But the person who called, I was talking to the person who called, and I said, you were the one who called? Yeah. I said, and what do you seem like you got your wits about you. She said, yeah, I'm the designated Narcan person. was like, what? Like a designated driver, a
Right.
designated Narcan person?
Sure. It's very risky behavior. So if the individual responded to the Narcan, there must have been some opiate that was mixed in with whatever they were using at that time. Because as we know that Narcan works on opiates, and that's the only one that can help reverse those overdoses. Some try to feel like they can use responsibly, for lack of a better term. And so, if someone goes out drinking, they have a designated driver, they think, okay, I'm safe. Or something happens, someone will help.
I get that part, but it's like, if you go out drinking and you have a designated driver, you could assume, I'm probably going to be okay. I'm not driving. The person who's driving the car is not intoxicated. But like you say, these narcotics nowadays are laced with things like fentanyl,
Correct.
which I believe they're using to cut the product so they get more sales. I don't really know, but it's deadly.
It is.
So why do these people want to take that chance? That's, to me, trying crack cocaine with fentanyl that may be out there, and there's a lot of it. There is a lot of it, is like playing Russian roulette with a gun. You have a chance of killing yourself.
Correct.
And it's not far-fetched anymore.
No. And some may think, maybe they trust their dealer, whoever they got it from, or a friend. They're finding that it's hard to tell. Some, drug dealers are intentionally putting that in there. And there are others where there's that cross-contamination. But like you said, you don't really know what is in the supply. Some, again, I'll go back to, don't think that could happen to them, or, they're looking for that high and not necessarily concerned about that. If we're looking at addiction, individuals will tell you it doesn't matter. They are just looking for that high, and that's part of the addicted process and the disease process that attacks an individual's ability to think rationally and clearly.
So if you have a child who's in it frequent now, uses marijuana, and apparently they're trying to make it so it's okay anyway, which I don't believe it is. But first of all, do you believe that leads to harder and worse drugs?
They've always called it the gateway drug, and some people laugh about that. There's more and more research coming out about it. So some may say it's just pot. There's nothing wrong with that. They're finding that there is synthetic marijuana that has some very negative effects on individual. They're also showing that if you have a predisposition to addiction or mental health issues, within your genetics or your family, it can unlock that key and turn on that addictive process. It can also turn on that key for, a first episode of psychosis. And we're finding that...
Meaning what?
Psychosis, or individuals that are out of touch with reality. They may be hearing voices, they may be seeing things that other people don't.
At the time they use it, or afterward, or...
It can trigger that first onset. So it could be substance induced, but once that key is turned on, you can't turn it off per se. That they may need some, lifelong medication and treatment for turning that on.
Just from smoking a joint?
Correct.
Wow. So parents, they see marijuana in their kid's drawer or in his pant pocket or something. What should they do?
Well, the first thing to do is always keep that open communication with their kids. You can think that you've raised the best kid possible, and even that straight A student that may be an athlete may try it. It's one of those things that depends on the peer pressure or what's around. It doesn't really discriminate. But to try to keep that open conversation, they may admit to it, they may deny it, they may make up an excuse for it. But to really be able to monitor it, confiscate it, get rid of it, but keep it open and consult with a professional. It never really hurts to do that.
Okay, so there's the question. What professional? Who do you call?
You can call our crisis services and ask for resources and information on where the best to go. We have a lot of local providers. We have North Point Council that serves adolescents. There's Beacon Center. There's Horizon Health Services that are able to treat adolescents.
It's so much, it's kind of mind-boggling just thinking about this stuff. All right, so say they go on to the harder drugs. They go on to the crack. They go on to heroin, which a lot of people do. Is there a return from that? People tell me yes, but
Yes.
I've seldom seen it, to tell you the truth.
Sure, it's a hard course. It really is. And, part of our slogan is there is help, there is hope, recovery is possible. And that is for mental health and that is for substance use. Recovery is a process. It's not necessarily a destination. If you think about it, and it may sound silly, but I always, compare it to a diet. We say, I'm not gonna eat those sugars and I'm not gonna eat these different things. And there comes a point that we do that, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, I know about that.
Right. So it's like you have a setback, but there most definitely is the ability to get treatment.
Yeah. Let's go to the phones, Marla. We're at 333-3020. Put your headset on so you can hear them. 333-3020. Dial the number carefully if you have a question. Marla's from the Niagara County Mental Health. Maybe you have a question. Maybe you have something you're interested in. She may be able to help you out. You're on the air with Marla. Go ahead.
Hi.
Hello.
I wanted to thank you for all of the support that you're giving the community. And I also wanted to ask you, as a parent, if your child is coming to you with a situation that you don't want to hear, what is the best way to calm down and take it in and think of the appropriate steps?
Well, that's a really good question. I think, being a parent myself, I have smaller children, but sometimes they say things that you just don't want to hear. One, being able to recognize that. And if you have to take that deep breath, I always say it's important for them to communicate with you. And just being able to say, I'm here to listen. Sometimes it's best to not respond until you hear the whole story. And then if you need time to say, I need to think about this, thank you for sharing that with me. But again, try to really not take a judgmental stance. Try not to become angry, but really be able to just to listen. And sometimes by not responding and just hearing that helps to open those further doors for them to continue the conversation.
Does that help you, ma'am?
It does help. It does help. Are there any particular books that you would recommend for parents of teenagers?
That's a good question. I don't have any off the top of my head, but certainly I could take a look at that and think about some of those and let Sal know.
Do you have any specific questions about a behavior or something that you're curious about that maybe you're looking for a way to approach or to talk about it?
I would say just depression in general and low self-esteem. I think it's common among teenagers, and I see it more and more. So I'm just looking for guidance.
So yeah, I mean, if you think about kids these days, there are a lot of pressures and stressors that they're having to deal with. I always make the joke, I grew up in the country, and I said, at least back then, the cows couldn't talk. We didn't have the pressures of social media. We don't have the pressure of it being replayed over and over again if you make a mistake. There are a lot of, images, wanting people to be looking thin or to look a certain way or a different hairstyle. All those things, can add to those, lack of self-confidence or comparing to others or, those judgments that we put on ourselves or other people. So it is a very challenging time. So again, encouraging your child, keeping that, that communication open with them. I know as a parent, sometimes we can say, it's going to be okay. I remember my mom saying that.
Sure.
It's going to be okay. It's all going to get better. And sometimes that feels very dismissive, especially to a child, like no one does understand, or even an adult, someone doesn't understand me.
Marla, it sounds like the caller maybe is dealing with a situation, and I know she's not going to give us all the information here, but if she wanted to call your office or somebody to maybe talk a little more in depth off the record and get some more information, what number should she call?
So you would call area code 716-285-3515.
That would be the crisis hotline.
Absolutely. Did that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate your time and your expertise in the show.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for calling. 333-3020 if you have a question or a thought on what we're discussing here, which is a lot of things that I think is in the back mind of a lot of parents and a lot of people, and they just don't know when and how to reach out. So I believe I asked you this before, but I'm not quite clear. When should somebody reach out to a professional? Where do you get, you said, when they're despondent with it, but where is the point where you say, this is too big for me, I gotta make a call?
Sure. It could be that, that parent that just called in, I'm not quite sure what to do with this. It can be, where you're just lost for words or answers or direction. We're there to help, with that. If it's getting to the point where you notice, a lot of these concerning things that I had talked about earlier, there's maybe this sense of hopelessness, this change in their behavior, their appearance, their interests, maybe they're more socially isolating, maybe they're looking up things or drawing things or writing things that might be dark or concerning. Any of those things, if you're not sure of how to approach it or you've tried and, the individual has just said, I'm fine, it never hurts to call.
Should parents, should spouses, should they look in their kids' cell phones? Should they go on YouTube or not Facebook? Should they look up what they're saying? Should they look at what they're looking at of computers? How nosy, how intrusive should they be, but still to protect their child, but still give them the freedom that I guess everybody deserves?
Sure. I always say anytime you may have a concern, check. I think parent oversight and monitoring is very important. There's that place of, allowing them to have some privacy, but still being able to check in on their social media.
So if you think they're using drugs, it's okay to go through their drawers when they're at school to look and see what you can find?
I don't want to tell anyone what to do or not to do, in that situation. But I mean, it's your child and you're a parent and, it's one of those things that you're going to look after them and protect them, and if it's a matter of feeling that something's going on and you want to make sure they're okay, that's your child. It's your responsibility to be able to look over them and protect them and get them the help when maybe they can't themselves.
333-3020 is our number. We're talking with Marla from Niagara County Mental Health. If you got a question, dial carefully. 333-3020. I like to call this the fun time of year. It's time for entertaining and to visit with friends and relatives and to pick out a special gift for a certain someone. You know what that makes it? It makes it the perfect time to visit Supermarket Liquors and Wines, Niagara's largest liquor store with all your favorites to choose from at Niagara Falls Boulevard and Military Roads. Now, if you want a preview, you can check them out online right now at supermarketliquor.com. They're open 7 days a week, late nights, Friday and Saturday till midnight, with plenty of free, brightly lit parking in front of the store. And there's always plenty of cashiers there to speed you on your way if you're in a hurry. But if you want to browse, it's Niagara's largest liquor store with great gift-giving ideas and selections, whether it's wine or liquors. When you're as big as Supermarket Liquors and Wines, a great gift doesn't have to be expensive. And you can see what I mean when you check out their specially custom bottled tequila and bourbons, handpicked by owner Chris Castellani at Supermarket Liquors and Wines. Supermarket Liquors and Wines in the Mill Pine Plaza on Niagara Falls Boulevard, just moments from the Fashion Outlet Mall. Visit them soon or check them out right now at supermarketliquor.com. 333-3020 is our number. We're talking with Marla from Niagara County Mental Health. Dial the number carefully. Got another phone call coming in here, Marla. Let's see if maybe somebody has another question that you can help them with. Sure. Hi, you're on the air with Marla.
Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How can I help you?
Yeah, I was wondering, if you're married and your spouse indulges in smoking marijuana, and they don't really care if your kids notice you're doing it, what are you supposed to do about that?
Well, that's a good question. Absolutely. So, I mean, do you mind me asking how old your children are?
Let's say at the point of being disturbed was probably 16 to 18.
Okay. All right. So obviously it's important to keep that communication open with your spouse, to let them know, about the behavior and the effect, the negative effects that it has on you as well as your children, and having that conversation with your children about what's going on, what their thoughts and, especially at that age, what are their thoughts and feelings, and kind of having that open dialogue about the situation.
Yeah, so what's your point?
What more are you looking for with that question?
Well, no. How do you deal with that kind of stuff?
Have you sought any outside professional assistance for that? About, having a family member that may be struggling with drug use or addiction?
Well, anybody who indulges in that are very secretive. So it's very difficult to bring it to fruition. So what do you think?
Have you tried talking to her about it?
Oh, yeah. You know how females are. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. You're a female. So, I mean, if you talk to anybody who does what they want to do and you don't agree with it, it's very difficult.
Yes, absolutely. What kind of limits and boundaries can you put around it would be something that I would encourage, in regards to that.
Oh, wow. Limits and boundaries. It's kind of like, I don't want you doing that. Limits and boundaries, it's like it's pissing me off. So, I mean, that's limits and boundaries. I mean, that's about the size of that.
Well, I mean, I guess what he's looking for is an answer to, when you say limits and boundaries, is it, well, if you're going to keep smoking pot in front of the kids, I'm not going to pay the bills anymore for yours. I mean, is that a limit or boundary? Is that reasonable, or what?
I guess it would be based on circumstance. In terms of family members, it can be very difficult, if they're using substances, to be able to say, if they're going to continue that, then you won't be home at that time or you won't be in that area. I know it can become a situation where maybe it feels like the other person can be very controlling in terms of the situation, particularly if you ask them not to do it, not to do them certain places, and they continue to do that. Then it's a matter of, what is your response going to be to that? How can you change, to either not be exposed around that or setting limits, with your children about that. There's no real simple answer. I'm sure there's many more complex factors that go along with that, more clinical advice could be given.
So for further advice, call the hotline, call your office, call who?
Sure, they can call the hotline. They can ask for information and resources about, providers in the area that may be able to further assist with that. If it's a critical issue at that point, they can certainly call us and we can try to help them work through that.
To help you out, caller?
No. That it makes sense and no sense. You can call, some other number and pawn it off onto somebody else. So, okay, well, I'm glad I called because I feel much worse.
Well, what I would encourage you to do is to contact our crisis services, and someone would be able to get more specific information from you about the circumstance, about other factors that maybe you don't want to share currently. That would be helpful for us to be able to guide your question and your concern.
Well, you know what? I appreciate your comments, and I hope that, you can help somebody else besides me.
Thank you for your call. 333-3020. See, especially when we get into on the air like this, I guess all the details people don't want to give, but they're looking for a quick answer, a quick.
Sure.
But these things are not quick answers, are they?
They're not, and they're very complicated. And as we were talking a little bit earlier, as part of our evaluation, our assessment is going to be asking a lot of different questions, and the more honest someone can be with us about, what is going on, what are some of the stressors, what have you tried, what haven't you tried, really helps us to guide what our recommendation would be. If you look for, just for example, just any quick advice, I have a hard time giving just that quick advice because it could be the very wrong advice because I don't know all the particulars around that. And particularly in a situation where you have, a spouse or a significant other that is doing something, you can't control another person's behavior, but you can certainly take a look at what your response or what you can do in that situation to do what is acceptable or what is best for you or your children, in that.
Sounds like you're saying, to set boundaries in a case like that, it would have to be like some type of, ultimatum. You either do this or I'm going to do this.
Some people get to that.
333-3020. We're talking with Marla from Mental Health. Hi, you're on the air.
I was confused with that last caller. Who's smoking the marijuana, the spouse or the children?
The spouse is what I understood.
Well, if it's that situation, why is he turning to law enforcement for endangering the welfare of a child? If he's that concerned.
It could definitely be that. There's different situations where child protection could get involved in a situation.
Yeah, I mean, if she's smoking the marijuana in front of the child, that means she's educating her children it's okay to smoke marijuana. All right. Now, if he's that concerned, he should look into child protection or call law.
Well, I think though, didn't he say that children were 18 or so?
It wouldn't technically say between 16 and 18.
Well, you know, if they're in school, talk to school guidance counselors.
Sure.
I mean, if the spouse is smoking the marijuana in front of the children, that means she's condoning it for them too. All right, and whatever is going on right now about legalizing marijuana, this is becoming more of a problem. All right, and people don't realize the long-term effect of employment and society of smoking marijuana. And at least other drugs too, and other problems.
Yes, and I know it gets very murky right now with the whole conversation of legalization of marijuana. And there's, we don't know a lot about the effects, and it has different effects on people. There's much more to be seen about that, but,
Sure is. Now, where is your funding? Is it 100% from the county, or is it through the federal, state, and county government? How does your funding work?
Our funding, we get different kind of funding. So there are, some that is state, some that is local, resources that play into all of that.
I mean, you have to be worried down the line with these budget crises that they may cut your funding, and that would cut the services of a very important, I'll say, product of services needed. It's well needed, and that's got to be tough, knowing that on your back, it just one politician can cut your funding and hurt your services, because there's a big need. And you see Horizon is expanding down to Lockport. You have the place on 3rd and Niagara Street, the rehab over there. I mean, it's a growing need, and I know it starts with you, and you branch them off to other directions. But education is still the key to this, if I'm not mistaken. Am I right?
Absolutely. And that's why it's important to do these kind of shows to help to provide some education. We do go a lot into the schools, and I was talking a little bit earlier about, our task force efforts of really getting into the young individuals, middle school on up, even with the whole mental health in schools law that talks about education K through 12, and having these conversations, even the social emotional health focus, really seeing that can be a factor in deterring, substance use as individuals get older, so it's important.
Yeah, you have kids have peer pressure in school. All right. Now I remember when I was in high school. All right, and I know when I was smoking marijuana or whatever, I did in high school, because your friends did it. And it was the peer pressure. But as I changed my lifestyle, not that I was a stoner, but as my friendships changed, my habits changed. All right, and it's pure pressure in the school, especially nowadays too. Right now with marijuana, and now they're saying everywhere you look at to try to legalize it. Well, I'm not for legalizing it. I'm sorry. There's long-term effects that we don't know about. Try to get a job. Try driving a truck if you're under the influence of marijuana.
Sure.
It's very tough, and I commend you for your services, for what you do. You don't have a very easy job, and I can congratulate you and keep up the good work with your services.
Thanks. And I just also want to make a point. We see that alcohol is legal, and there's it's still one of the top concerns, and can be killers for individuals with alcoholism. So legal or not, there can still be individuals that are going to have problems and addictions with that, and it can impact their functioning, their relationship, their jobs, all of those things that you had mentioned as well.
When you go on to the next step up, which might be cocaine or crack cocaine, and then heroin, now the opium epidemic in this world, in the country. This is where it all starts from the very beginning. It all starts from marijuana. I don't care what you say. You started there first, and then you grew more addicted to the feeling, and you had to have a bigger, more intense high. And it's just a shame, but I think our government is looking at it as a dollar and cents, how to make money on this. We're going to do it in Canada. And they're showing in Colorado, the effects we're having over there, the problems we're having with it. But it comes down to the bottom line: how do we get more money into our government? That's what they're looking at. So, well, you got a tough job. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you for calling.
Thanks for your call. 333-3020. We're talking to mental health. We're coming right back.
Only your locally owned Cub Cadet dealer has genuine parts, accessories, trained service technicians, and the widest selection of innovative Cub Cadet products. We're here for you whenever you need us, with expert service and support to keep your equipment running at peak performance for years to come. Take advantage of exceptional financing at your local Cub Cadet dealer today.
Stop by your locally owned Cub Cadet dealer, Niagara Lawn and Garden Equipment, today.
Couple of minutes left with Marla from Niagara County Mental Health. I guess the basic number people should call, the main number is the hotline number, which is 285-3515.
Correct.
But that is not necessarily just for emergencies.
Correct. So if it is an urgent emergency where you should be calling 911, call 911. We always encourage that. If someone is in the act of trying to hurt themselves or somebody else, if they've taken an overdose of medication, if they're not responsive, we always say call 911. They are going to respond a lot faster than we'll be able to do.
How many younger kids are involved in this crisis type problems? I mean, I know there's kids that can't take being bullied in school, and I mean, younger kids in I don't even want to say grade schools, I guess, are bothered with this type of stuff. So
Absolutely.
do the parents go to the hotline, to the principal, to the parents? What do they do?
They can definitely go to, someone that they feel that they can trust. Sometimes individuals don't want to call us for various different reasons. You can start with your school's counselor or the school principal or the school teacher, and talk to them. We work a lot with the school districts on, when you hear certain things that are concerning or you're not quite sure what to do with that, they call us as well for guidance and reassurance. And sometimes we can reach out and talk to the family if that's something that they would like to do.
I think, and I know in dealing with your organization over the years, I think people should understand that no question is a stupid question.
No.
I mean, if there's something you don't understand, pick up the phone. You're willing to talk to them and help them and give them an answer.
Yes, one of the things I love that my children's pediatrician says is, the only silly question asked is the one the only silly question is the one not asked.
The one that you don't ask,
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So again, we will take any kind of question if it's just to find out where a local food pantry is. If someone is struggling, they're not sure where to go for housing. I mean, we have the numbers and the resources to call, to try to help.
So it's not all life and death situations.
No.
It's any type of a problem that you're having in life.
Sure.
That you need a helping hand with, or an answer, or maybe some guidance.
So absolutely. And it's looking at it anytime someone is in any kind of psychological distress, and you're just needing, maybe you don't have someone that you can talk to, or you don't feel comfortable, like the first caller, what if their child didn't feel comfortable talking to them? They can certainly call. Anyone can call anonymous, and just ask questions or concerns. If you are, I always say, if you're in the parking lot and see someone that is seeming that they're distressed, call us, let us know, let us, find out where they are, and maybe we can come and assist.
Now, this is all over Niagara County. This program, incidentally, will be going up on YouTube later tonight, so it'll be there. Just look up Niagara County Mental Health on YouTube. It's going to be under Niagara Broadcast Network. It'll also be here on our Niagara Radio Network for the next 3 days. So people have access to hearing what you have to say and seeing how easy it is to talk to you. Marla, thank you for coming
Thanks
down.
for
I
having
do
me.
appreciate it. Hope we've helped somebody. And again, that number, if you need help, 285-3515. Or if you have a question, it doesn't have to be a serious question. It could be something you think is iffy or even stupid. They'll tell you. They'll tell you when you should be concerned and when you shouldn't. Marla, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you.